right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital here in Abuja. Now, we have in the studio Ayo Oyalu, who is an economist, and he will also be talking to us and giving us his own perspectives on the recent effort to cut down the cost of governance here in Nigeria, and taking from the statement of the Minister of Finance, talking about the Oronseye report. Good morning and welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, apparently, it's clear now to everyone that Nigeria cannot continue in the direction it's going, looking at the cost of running governance. It's a discussion we've had almost forever. The Oronseye report itself is more than 10 years now, and some are of the view that is in fact obsolete. So how do we reconcile, the current realities and that report? Well,
thank you once again. I know people will say it's obsolete, you need to update, which is normal. I mean, life itself is about continuous movement. There must be dynamism. What you do today, you have to review. That's why you always have what you call the rolling plan, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, mid-term, long-term, short-term, and so on and so forth. So starting from somewhere, it's already a good sign. Even though I would say it took too long. However, starting is the most difficult part. When you start, you begin to improve over time. So I really don't think it's a bad one. In fact, if left to me, I think this particular government started a bit too late to start implementing that. However, it took a lot of courage to do this. It is very clear to anyone discerning, you realize that we've had too many agencies duplicating efforts of another agency. So trying to merge some of them and remove a few of them, it's the way to go. Okay. It's the way to go.
Now, if implementing the Oronseye reports means sacking workers, but the federal government is saying it's not going in that direction,
I think
how would this actually work?
You should tone down on that language of sack. Maybe you will say reforming and then right-sizing.
Say layoff? Is there any better way of saying it?
Well, the truth still remains that I have not seen the white paper. I mean, the report is there. The white paper will tell whether they will sack or not. However, even if they will sack, I'm sure there must be some human face to it. People should be offered something very decent and reasonable to make it easy for their exit so that they can find other things to do. See, whether we like it or not, the truth remains that government cannot continue to be the biggest employer of labor. What we need to be asking for, and which we are not doing, is something I was reading before you told me to start. It's about how foreigners have taken over our ports in terms of management of the port. You see, Nigerians keep thinking, and I think it's a function of the type of education we give to our people. We need to completely overhaul that sector. People should not graduate from school, and the only option left for them is to work with government or in a government agency. The best economy today is run by private sector in the world. Government should not be the major one running. What the government needs to be doing, and what we need to tell government to do, is to create enabling environment for businesses to thrive. If businesses thrive and the private sector is doing very well, then there will be less need for government to be the biggest employer of labor. There will be less need for young people to want to think, to not be able to think outside the box, and all they are thinking about is to work in this agency or to work in that agency.
So maybe why we have a lot of focus and pressure on government right now is because maybe most of the people that graduated see no opportunities.
That is what I just said now.
To work with the private sector.
That is why I'm just saying that it is because our educational system is, we never upgraded it, we never overhauled it. What the colonialists left for us was a system to train people who can work in mid-level to low-level clerks and workers. And when we took over government in 1960 and we became a republic in 1963, some of the things we should have done is to change our educational system. Although I think they tried that in some, I think it must be during Babangida time when they did that, the 6334 and all this stuff, but we never implemented it properly.
Is it just about the educational system?
Yes, it
because
is. See,
it looks to me that no matter how educated one is, and no matter
you are still not getting my story.
See.
I was reading something recently, right?
You need that environment, where you have investors
but I just said it now.
That kind of system.
We don't need to argue this. Did you hear what I said earlier on? I said what the government needs to do is to create enabling environment. I said it. I'm not exonerating government.
No, you were talking about the educational sector.
If we now have people who are well trained to be more entrepreneurial, to be more, to be able to think better outside the box. Somebody thought and created Daily Trust newspaper, isn't it? And then from newspaper you created a television, and that is why you guys are working here. Now that is what I'm talking about. So if you have more of this doing well, maybe there will be less focus on wanting to go and work in the government TV. That is what I'm trying to say. You will have more private sector driven economy.
But shouldn't there be innovation in the public sector as well?
Well, how many innovations have you seen? Because the system is designed so that there will be no innovation. That is why we must de-emphasize the need to work for government. Now you are getting what I'm saying. When we de-emphasize it, government will still be there as more as a regulator, not as a player in the system. You get my point? Okay, let me give you another example. We have the CBN, which is supposed to be the banker of the bankers, isn't it? And then Nigeria's economy has needed the government to intervene. What the CBN should do is to either enable or create agencies to work in the development sector. Do you get my point? But what have we seen in the last few years? I'll tell you. We needed intervention in the agricultural sector. Is that not so? Rather than the CBN tried to create some agencies, but because they all failed, or they are not living up to expectation, in the last few months, you have seen CBN directly intervening in agriculture, directly giving out loans to farmers. Now, you know where the problem is in this? You know where? You should ask me. The problem is, when you are the regulator, who regulates the regulator? Why the CBN created those agencies is because it will be able to regulate them, it will be able to audit them, then there will be accountability. But when the CBN itself deliberately intervenes at the lower end, at the last end, giving the loans, who audits these loans? Do you get my point now? So there has been no innovation in the private sector, in the public sector. It has always bogged down to corruption, over-bloated system, inefficiencies, and so on and so forth. So for me, this is good if it is properly implemented. Okay. And like I also said, when you started your question, one of the things you said is that people will say it has gone stale or it's gone out of date. There must be constant innovation. There must be dynamism. What makes your newspaper doing well is because of what I just mentioned earlier on. You were a newspaper, but you thought, okay, we could compete in this area, and then you are moving there. So that is innovation.
Okay.
That is thinking outside the box. That is going beyond just doing the normal. Always add, move forward, go forward, innovate, develop. Okay. That is what makes an economy to be a good economy.
You point to the issue of sincerity. If this is properly done, it's going to be a great deal. Yeah. So, but most times what we've seen is we say one thing and we do it differently.
Well, that is not my problem. That is their problem. That's why I'm worried myself.
I'm headed somewhere. I'm headed somewhere. You know, one will wonder that for a report that has been there for quite a while, all of a sudden, it's the eve of election, and we are thinking about, implementing that report. Is there any implication for that? And how practical is it anyways?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know the thoughts behind doing it now. If you heard what I said earlier, I said it takes a lot of courage, and I give them kudos for trying to do it. However, I think like you are thinking that, why now? but we don't know. We can only second guess. So, and I hate second guessing, because anything I say here now is just thinking. It is not born out of any facts, any figures, because I don't have it. See, the truth is, I think it was the Jonathan government that commissioned. Okay, it was Yaradua that commissioned the Orosani report, but I think it died before it was concluded, and then the Jonathan government inherited it. They didn't do anything about it. The Buhari government came in the first 4 years, they didn't do anything about it. And like you rightly pointed out, in the next 3-4 months now, this government will have only 1 year in office. So I don't know how feasible it is. I don't know how practicable it is, but hold on. But I think what could have pushed them to this point is that the cost of governance is ballooning beyond any reasonable imagination. Just a few years ago, about 3 years ago, they created a Northeast Development Commission. I think the Southeast people are also shouting they wanted or they want something similar. See, these are the problems. We keep creating and duplicating efforts, even when it is not necessary. And as if that is not bad enough, we keep creating institutions that are not going to help us. And I'll give you an example. In the recent past, we've approved God knows how many universities and polytechnics and institutions. All these things are federal. Already, ASU has been a huge problem to this country and the economy. What ASU alone demands and asks for, it makes no sense in terms of the figure. And now you are creating more institutions, and then you are going to employ more ASU, and then you are going to need more money. And I just saw the school fees yesterday of Tafawa Balewa University. They are resuming. Somebody posted it somewhere and I saw it. And I'm like, this is not realistic. How can you train a medical doctor paying 80,000 naira? It is completely not realistic. So we are not thinking like a people. We are trying to run a capitalist economy using a social system model, using a socialist model, and it is not going to work. We need to define where we are. Are we a capitalist? Are we socialist? Are we a communist? What exactly are we running? It's a mixed, and even in the mix, we are not doing it properly. If we want to run a mixed economy, we should have a focus that this area will be completely capitalist. This area will be socialist to an extent, but we're just doing a mismatch.
Okay, recently the president granted several interviews, and, a couple of interviews rather, and he mentioned,
2 specifically.
Yes, a couple. And he made reference to something that he seemed to be very, very
passionate about.
Passionate, very strong. Having very strong opinion about
and that's
the fact that people have to go back to the lands as his way of revamping the economy and making it to work for all Nigerians and all of that. I want to get your thoughts on that. He talks about 2.5% arable lands being used and all that. So how far are we just realizing that? I mean, we've been talking about
to be fair to this president,
for as long as I can remember.
To be fair to this president, he has, from day one, his focus have always been agriculture. And to also be fair to him, no government in recent years have invested more in agriculture than he has invested. However, the results are not good. And the reason is not far-fetched. I just give an example of the CBN. We have the Bank of Agriculture, we have NARSA, we have several other agencies for agriculture. But is anybody looking into these agencies? What exactly are they doing? We hear billions being spent on agriculture. Who has actually queried or interrogated those billions? The answer blows in the wind. To be fair to this president, he has empowered, and I think the style he employs is that he gives you an assignment and he does not micromanage you.
Which is the same issue with the previous government.
He doesn't micromanage you. He gives you the free will to run as you wish. However, I don't think Nigerians have shown enough maturity when they are not micromanaged. Honestly, the figures that has been poured into agriculture is enough for us to be food sufficient. And I will tell you why he's focusing on agriculture. You see, we can shout of economy every day, but the moment you bring down food inflation, every other thing will naturally be fine. Because the Yoruba also have a good adage that says the moment hunger is taken out of your poverty is almost as good as over. Do you get my point? You see, housing is a basic need, clothing and all those things. But you see, people can live with basic housing, with basic clothing, but nobody can go to bed without eating. So if food is taken out of our problem, so that is why he's been focusing on agriculture. And it's not a bad idea, but two things that I see is the one I just mentioned. The agencies that have been created have been completely in shambles and nobody's querying it. Monies that have been poured in, nobody's looking. And because it is so bad, CBN is now directly involved in agriculture. And this is even the biggest danger. CBN is not a development bank. We have Development Bank of Nigeria, we have NERSA, we have a Bank of Agriculture. What exactly are their roles in helping to curb food inflation? That is number one. The second problem is the numbers. Mr. President also said something, if you listen to those interviews properly, he's talking about machinery, he's talking about tractors. And so we really don't need numbers in agriculture. In some of the most developed countries, in the US, for instance, the number of people involved in agriculture is less than 3-point-something%. Yet they feed the entire country and they still export. So you don't need huge number of people in agriculture. All of us in this office does not need to go to the farm. Only you can manage a farm that can feed the entire country. So that is where I am worried that the money spent on agriculture, what exactly have we spent it on? Have we spent it on training, on development? Have we spent it on research? Because also, you can't continue to use the same kind of seed to get the same kind of yield. In agriculture, you need to develop the seed so that a little investment in seedling will yield more. For instance, probably a normal seed of maize will give you 2 or 3 head of corn. You can now have a seed that will give you a full tree that maybe 10. Right. So in one seed before you will get, let's say, a cup. Now in a seed, if it's well developed, you get a bucket. No, those are some of the things so nobody is asking these questions. We just keep throwing money at these problems, and it will not be solved if we don't ask the question, the money that has been spent, how and where were they spent?
Okay. Now, if really we are to see this report through, what should we do, differently? Because in recent times, you get to hear reports of ghost workers popping up and all of that. What should Nigeria do?
I think for the ghost worker thing, this government dealt with it very well. Under the leadership of the president, but under the former minister, the first one in this government in finance, Kemi, I can't remember her surname now.
Adeosun.
Thank you, Kemi Adeosun. I think they dealt very well with the ghost worker stuff. You asked this question, and I've already answered you earlier, and I'm going to answer you again. I use the word sincerity. You see, what we've been doing in Nigeria is always the right thing, but we never do it with sincerity of purpose. If there is sincerity of purpose, if there is honesty, it will be properly achieved, but somebody will bring his own agenda there. It's a time to remove people of a region I don't like. It's a time to remove people of a religion I don't like the moment I'm the one in charge. Now, these are the challenges. So if we want to implement the report, then let's implement it blindly. When I say blindly, that means you are colorblind. You're not looking at your religion, your region, your ethnicity, it's completely devoid of that. Sincere implementation. Then we will now maybe say we've done well. However, like I said, sincerity, I don't know their sincerity level. I don't have a sincerity meter to test. So it is their problem, not mine. I'm just an ordinary Nigerian. But I will wish that there is sincerity in the implementation of this, because we have reached a point where we cannot continue to lie to ourselves. The system is over bloated. We can't continue to carry. We have been borrowing to do a lot of infrastructure. If we don't handle this thing properly, maybe we'll begin to borrow to pay salaries too.
Okay.
And we can't afford that.
Okay, now another one closely related to this is the fact that, you know, in recent times we've had, you know, complaints about corruption, I mean, in the civil service, and how that we have seen recruitments that do not follow, you know, due process. We've seen, you know, boards at loggerheads with heads of, you know, government agencies and all of that due to certain demands.
Minister having issue with agency leaders.
And all of that. So, how is corruption playing a part?
Yeah, the first problem we need to deal with in this issue of corruption in civil service is to, you see, the civil service law is obsolete. In the current Nigerian civil service law, it's obsolete. It needs to be changed. You can't hire people that you cannot fire. You get my point? You get civil servants who knows, because the way the system is structured, except they are caught 100% in the cookie jar, they will find their way out. You remember all the ones who created so much problem for Abuja that El-Rufai fired when he was the minister of Abuja? They went to the court and got themselves reinstated. Because the civil service rule is so lax, it gives too much room. So we need to first and foremost overhaul the law governing the civil service. It has to be more dynamic. That is why the banks, the telecoms company, and some other private sector companies are doing better than the civil service, because there is a system that works. You get my point? The civil service don't have such system. People can do anything and get away with it. That is the challenge, because we have this belief that government thing is everybody's thing. But it's never going to do that. We have to have sense of ownership, knowing that whatever government is running, whatever property we think is government, is ours. So we need to get to that point where we have that sense of ownership. And like I also said earlier on, the civil service law should be changed, updated to meet international standards. Our civil service law is not working as it were.
Would you say that that's why maybe fighting corruption has become so difficult?
Because it is easy to hide behind the system. Yes, in the system. It is easy. Do you have a friend who has bidded for something in any agency? Go and ask them, they will tell you their stories. Or if you have any reason to deal with any agency, especially ministry, go find out. It doesn't work. But if you have an issue with a bank, you know the line to complain to. And if they don't handle it, they know that they will be fine. But before you say NLC will come and jump in the fray, everybody will. It's so easy to hide behind the corrupt system. The system needs to be completely overhauled. The laws, the enabling laws, everything needs to be overhauled. This Nigerian civil service is built right now to be inefficient.
And also another issue is the issue of politics. You know, in politics and governance, it's almost as if you cannot separate the two.
No, but you really can't separate that.
You know, and here you have political appointees heading some of these government agencies and all of that, and they are supposed to account to their superiors, maybe whether ministers and then maybe by extension the president. Now, the president, when he came to the office in 2015, is seen as this anti-corruption giant and all of that. And we have had several cases where people have erred, you know, in corruption allegations pointed at them and all of that. And it becomes very difficult to hold them to account. You know, why is that so?
I just mentioned it. You are just making me to repeat myself. I said it earlier on. The way the system is built is such that I think an angel will struggle to rule or to lead this country. An angel of God will struggle, sincerely. The human beings in that place have built up their... See, I have had some dealings with them. I don't want to go into specifics. But honestly, the way Nigerian civil service is built, I don't want to call God and blaspheme, but I think an angel of God will not succeed in our system if we do not revamp the place. And somebody told me something, and I think I'm beginning to agree with the person. I was saying we need to change it. I said, look, no matter what you say, if you don't have a system that works, nothing. And I read a little story about a child who just got into a school in the United States, and then all the people that are involved, from the police to check his background, the Ministry of Finance to put him on the food, the lunch, whatever, to the Ministry of Education, to the Ministry of Transport to take care of his boss. The system was completely working for just one boy. Here, no, I'm not sure if you call the principal of a school today, he doesn't know the number of students he has, let alone a minister knowing the number of people working under them. So we have a system that is not working. And it doesn't matter your sincerity or lack of. You are going to face this challenge. The level of corruption is so easily exacerbated because the system is designed to be so. Until we have a complete mindset change that we need to. Because you see, people are running the country believing that they can take out of the country, forgetting that when you keep eating from a pot and you don't go and fix and add more, one day the pot will become empty. That is what is going on with our system.
From the way you sound now, it's like Nigeria's problem is unsurmountable. It's so huge that it cannot be fixed.
Before, when I was in Lagos, I could easily sit down and talk. Now that I've been in Abuja for a few years, and I've had reason to interact directly with some ministries and agencies, bro, I fear for this country. And the worry for me is that people are not seeing the sense of urgency. People that are involved are so entrenched that they can't see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is you sit down and say, oh, Buhari is making us suffer. But it's not about Buhari, it's about us. If me get an office, and I think it's the all be all, and the people behind me, everybody think, it's time to chop. And everybody is just stealing left, right, and center. How do you want to blame the president? What exactly does the man, what can he do? That it is replicated in every agencies, ministries, and departments. We are in trouble with the quality of mindset our people take into any public sector. It is not about the appointee this time around. It's about the people working there themselves. You get you bid for a job and people tell you, oh, sell this thing now. If you don't sell, they will frustrate you all the way from the day you start executing the contract to the last point. So that the next time you have to bid with their own insight. So a lot of things are so wrong. So we need to overhaul. The system is completely ready for a complete overhaul. As it were right now, one day it will crumble and there will be no way out for us. Wow. So for us as a people, for us as a country, that is why it is worrisome when you see our young people running abroad. All the best are running and nobody is seeing the danger. I was reading a material from my wife. She's a medical doctor. And there was a material recently I just read. The number of Nigerian medical doctors in the United Kingdom alone is over 50,000 as we speak. In fact, there is a particular set in a particular university. They did a reunion about 2 years ago. 90% of medical doctors of that set are in UK as we speak. An entire set. You know, like you said, 92 sets. Now, you know what I mean by an entire set of medical graduates. About 90% of them are in the United Kingdom working. And it is replicated in so many areas. Right now, the IT guys, the smart ones, are running away. Very soon, one day, you will look at yourself and will just remain a backward country. Nigeria is so blessed. We have all the things that can make Nigeria a first world country. But do we have the will? Not just the political will, but as a people ourselves. I was driving yesterday on this your Jabi area, and the red light stopped me, and I stopped. And then when it was time to go, the people that were coming, it has stopped them. They refused to. Now, those are simple things, but it tells me how you think.
In fact, they begin to look at you as if maybe something is wrong with you.
The man was running. He was going to hit me if I don't wait for him. And I already had the green light. He had the red light. But he was not going to wait. He has to go. These are simple but very germane issues. If people don't have a mindset change, it doesn't matter what the president does. It doesn't matter what the minister does. If we as a people don't see it as, this is our problem, if we don't deal with this country properly and make it work, someday we will not have a country. Forget agitation for secession. That's not our major problem. Our major problem is people giving opportunities to fix a system, but who see it as an opportunity to reward just themselves. It's a danger. But one day, this thing that we are saying, in a few years ago, we were talking about, oh, very soon the poor will have nobody to eat, nothing to eat but the rich. In the last 5, I mean, maybe, I don't know how old you are, but if I tell you in 20 years ago, that we will not be able to drive freely on our roads, you will not agree with me, right? Mm-hmm. But today, how many of us can boldly enter our car and drive from here to Zaria? How many? You will be driving with trepidation in your heart because the monsters that we were nurturing then have finally grown now to come and consume us. It is not about the president. It's not about the government. It's about ourselves as a people. When people see a system that they should make to work. You remember in 1980, I mean 70 something, we were put at par with Malaysia, with Singapore, as all of us were supposed to be at par. We're supposed to be peers then. Today, where are those countries? Where are we today? It is not because those countries have grown or anything. It's because of the quality of mindset of the people. Our mindset is such that I will destroy this place and I will run abroad. Wow. Everybody who you put people in any place to fix a system, the only thing they are thinking of is to steal. You say, okay, I was talking about CBN and NASA and other places. Mm-hmm. You put people there, go back and check their net worth when you put them there to what it is today. Nobody is talking about these things. And today, farmers are still complaining. Food, the price of food is still soaring. But we have agencies that should have dealt with this thing. But they didn't do it. People got there and suddenly they became wealthy. People who never had international passport before they got to a position, today they travel and have meetings everywhere all over the world. What is the result of those meetings? Nothing. It's because somebody wants to collect extra code. Because somebody wants to just chop. It is a dangerous system we are running. A system without accountability because the law covers people to behave as they wish. And when people have opportunity to actually expose this thing, you see that is their brother, is their friend, or he has paid them to look the other way. Well, so it's a danger we are sitting on. We
hope that the country turns out.
No, because I used to be very, very optimistic. Sincerely. But I have interacted with people. I don't have optimism again. I'm scared. Because I keep telling everybody, I don't have 2 passports. I have only 1. Great. I don't want this country to be destroyed. But I'm scared. I was in Lekki last week. I was driving. And you see all these small children running around, begging on the street. I talked to somebody. I said, these are the next set of Boko Haram. We are grooming them already. We are grooming the next set of Boko Haram. And then if you stop there on that road, you see all these young men will be pouring water on your glass. They want to wash it. And for how many years will they do that?
Well, really do hope the country.
Well, we keep praying, we keep putting everything in the hands of God, but God will not come to solve a problem that you and I have the intellect to solve. God is not foolish. God gave us the brain to solve problem, but we refuse to use our brain. We now say God will do it. What kind of nonsense thing that we do? We use religion to hide our inefficiencies.
Well, we really all need to play our part. You know.
Everybody has got a part. We should not sit down and say the president, the minister, the governor. No, they have their part. I won't lie about that. It is their job. They took the job. But beyond them, we as human beings, the way our mind works is such that we must be looking at how to develop our country. If we don't think about developing our country, one day we will not have a country.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. We've been speaking with a political economist, Ayo Ayalowo, here in the studio. We hope to have you next time.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.